All right, guys, welcome back. We got another big buck. I mean, this is going to be the biggest buck I probably will ever cover. I think in history of doing these. I don't know. I can't foresee the future, but Seth, good to have you on, man. Can't wait to cover this story. 284 inches of antler that we're going to talk about. Absolutely insane. So, Seth, how are you?
I'm good, man. Cold morning up here in Indiana, and just happy to be here with you guys.
Yeah, he said it's 8 degrees up there. It's like 35 degrees down here in South Alabama. And I told him, I said, we're freezing our butts off down here. And he's like, oh, it's just 35 is a heat wave for him. So
Yeah,
yeah. Different people, different terrain, different deer. Let's get
yep,
into it, dude. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You told me you own a gym. I see you got some pretty big guns on you right there. Pretty broad shoulders. You
yeah,
take up the whole
yeah.
screen.
Worked out my whole life.
Yeah.
Always been a avid hunter, man. We've got a lot of good deer in the area, and or I mean, this was the last good deer in the area. There's no deer in Indiana, guys. Don't come here.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, uh, but this was my fourth Boone and Crockett deer. Um, when I saw him early June, my wife and I are out just driving around. We're glassing fields around some of our farms. It's on her side. We kind of pull up to this area, and I said, "There's a few deer out there." She's got the binos. She looks. She goes, "Oh my gosh, you got to see this." She hands them to me, and he's just standing at the edge of the woods, and I could not believe my eyes. I've seen some pretty big deer, and nothing like this. I mean, he giant double drops. The drops on one side are almost 12 inches, the other side's almost 11. Just a huge frame. And I didn't get a great look at him. He stood there for about 5 seconds, but I just could not believe it when he turned around and went back in the woods, how big he was.
Yeah.
I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me.
Insane. And so if y'all see there's just junk everywhere, and you're probably also
No,
seeing that it's velvet, and you're probably thinking, what the heck is going on? So this is actually, just for y'all up front, this is called a cactus buck. Crypto, Lord, I will mess this up bad. Cryptodurism, crypto tech, crypto different terms. A lot of people in the South call them cactus bucks. That's what I'm gonna call it. But
right.
basically, Seth, from my understanding, you can emphasize too, he had his reproductive parts were there,
He
correct?
did. He did. He just didn't have any testicles.
And so his testicles, and so this is something that they can either be born with, and it just they don't produce testosterone where they don't go through the whole process that a normal deer would do. They don't rut, they don't breed, and then they just basically keep growing antler, and they don't shed their horns. And then it can also come from if they get any sort of damage, if they jump a barbed wire fence, they jump a stick,
Right.
another buck fighting, and they do some damage to their reproductive parts, then they will continue this just keep growing, and they're in their own little bubble. I've seen them and heard and read stories of actually taking one myself where they kind of are their own deer. They stay to themselves, or from what I've seen, it's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And
And that's how this guy was. He just kind of hung out with in the summer he was with a bachelor group with some other really good deer too. There was 7 or 8 good bucks together. But as he got closer to season, he just hung out with like 1 2-year-old buck, and that was it.
yeah, that's
He
insane, man. So insane. So, Seth, tell us a little about your place you got. So, how many acres are you hunting on there in northern Indiana?
um I've got quite a few places. This deer, I had 200 acres. He was just going between two patches of woods. He had a really small home area, back and forth. If we hunted the one wood the couple days we didn't see him, we knew he was on the other side,
Hmm.
and it was split by a bean field. The one side's about 200, the other side's about 100.
Wow.
So
Okay.
we had two farms to access him from.
So you are one of those, you don't have to have 2 3,000 acres to kill a good deer. I hear those stories.
You don't, you
I
don't.
love them.
Yeah,
Yep. I
yeah,
love the
and
5 10 acre stories, but that's pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah. Yeah, we got a lot of patches around here that are just broke up, and you might have 20 acres here, you might have 30 acres here, and you hunt them smart, and you kind of play the wind, make sure that you really use your scent control, because I mean you'll blow those areas out pretty quick on big deer. and you got to be very careful about it. It doesn't take much to push a big deer out.
No doubt. You only get one chance. So let's get into it, Seth. I can't wait. I haven't heard anything about this. I just know,
Sure. Yeah.
I just saw the deer, know the score. Can't wait to hear the story. So let's hear about it. I know you said y'all saw it early in the year. Got some.
Yeah. Yeah. We
eyes on
started
it.
watching at the end of June. And he was staying in a pretty small area. We were able to watch him out in the bean field pretty much all summer. We're watching him, and I mean, just the magnitude of him, body size, everything. He dressed out at 272. If that tells you anything.
Gosh,
He'd be out there with a couple of 160s deer, and he just made them look like yearlings. It was unbelievable. And we're kind of getting a feel for where he's living, where he's coming from to come to the bean fields. Sometimes he's coming from the north, sometimes he's coming from the east. I mean, he's moving around a little bit, like a summer deer does, but his core area is pretty much the same. Our neighbors to the south are getting some trail cam pics of him all at night. When I talked to them, they said, no, we don't have any daylight pictures of him. He's just, when he comes through us, he just wanders through at night. But we're able to watch him almost every evening. And as we're getting towards season, the other bucks are starting to come out of velvet. He's still holding it. I'm starting to wonder a little bit. I'm like, man, with everything he's got going on, is he going to shed this velvet? Like, is there an injury? I'm not really sure what's what yet. Like, maybe he's going to come out of it. Maybe he's a late shedder. I really don't know. I didn't have any history, nor do I know anybody that had any history of this deer last year, the year before. He had just kind of shown up. Wow. I mean, it's, and, he was almost this big when I started watching him in June. So I knew he kind of kept his rap from last year, and he had to be almost that big last year. So it's, how does
that just go?
Yeah. He's 260 this year, but how's a 260 deer fly under the radar?
I know, elude all that for so long. That's incredible.
Yeah. And we've got a lot of good deer, but we just don't get those mega giants around here as much as other places like Ohio and Iowa and stuff like that. So it's big news, and we're being very quiet about it. Me, my crew, the neighbors, they're seeing it, but they're very quiet about it too. Nobody really wants to say much because, I don't know if this guy saw it. So we're just gonna keep it tight until I guess word gets out, and word always does kind of get out. That,
totally.
Hey man, there's a big deer over there. People are seeing a giant. But so we get closer to season. We're kind of making a plan, of where he's coming from the most. How are we going to get in there? The wind. What are we going to hunt him on? And the first week of season, terrible wind, unhuntable. And it's killing me. I'm like, well, I guess I'll go sit a couple other farms because I want to get in the woods, but. I've kind of already made my mind up. I'm going to dedicate the season to try to kill this deer. It's the biggest deer I've ever seen. I have no idea where he came from, but I'm going to hold my tag until someone else tags him or I do. I mean, and I know a lot of guys, they get a little worked up about big deer like that, as far as they get a little possessive. Oh, my deer, like I always tell everybody the same thing, man. It's not your deer till it's in the back of your truck.
Totally. Yep.
So if some other hunter tags them, awesome, man. Congratulations for him.
That's the way to be, dude. That is the way to be.
I'm really happy for him. I mean, my little heart broke, sure, but I'm going to be jealous about it. I'm not going to, act like it was my deer to kill him. He killed my deer. No, man, he got it fair and square. That's his deer.
Right.
Good for him.
Totally.
So the first week, kind of a wash. Can't get after him at all. The second week comes, we get a wind to hunt. We're hunting a big weed patch, just the edge of it. We're in some corn. We've got some food. It's beans around. we have a feeling where he's bidding. It's not on us, but maybe he comes our way.
Yeah.
You got to be in the game.
Yep. Totally.
So, we get out. My buddy's sitting down a stand a little further than me. And lo and behold, I see him. I mean, he's 150 yards out. Can't believe my eyes. I mean, just a giant frame. And that's about the closest I've seen him, since we glassed him. But to see him in person
as you're
in
hunting,
the field,
yeah, I bet your heart was pounding, dude.
He's away wrong side of the fence, can't do anything about it anyway. But just to watch him, I told my friend, I'm like, that made my season. I said,
Yeah.
even if I don't get him, I can say that I had that deer out in front of me.
Totally. You encountered him while you were in the woods? Yeah, totally. I
Sure.
get that. I know that feeling. Yep.
Yeah, and I was able to watch him that night for, I don't know, 30, 35 minutes. He just kind of milled around, and well before dark. I mean, and that was kind of the MO of this deer, man. He daylighted almost every day. For a big deer, I mean, just very uncommon. Really all he cared about was eating and sleeping, and if he felt safe and we were very careful about how we hunted him, it just hoped it would come together.
It's incredible.
But,
I don't understand. I still don't understand this. It's like the aliens dropped him in. It's incredible. I mean, you've never had any history with him.
It really is.
And then he's just boop, all of a sudden he's acting like a 3-year-old per se. He's daylighting like,
Sure.
An 8-9-year-old deer, like you said, you think he was an 8-9-year-old deer.
Yeah.
They don't daylight like that, man. I mean, that's just incredible.
No.
I don't know. I'd love to. I hope you end up finding out some more about this and update us on this, because I am intrigued to see or hear if there's anybody else that had history of this deer. That's incredible.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
That hunt, you had an encounter with him.
Had an encounter with him that hunt. Probably fast forward about 2 weeks. That was probably the next time we saw him. Same kind of area, same kind of deal. Just out a little ways. And now we're talking probably around October 18th, 19th. But again, he's on his feet really early, kind of traveling the same area. Nothing I can do about it. I can't get close to him.
Right.
But he's just kind of hanging out, man. He's hanging with a 2-year-old buck. There's a few other bucks around him this encounter when I see him, and these other bucks are kind of sparring around. They're starting to ramp up their testosterone.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want anything to do with it, man. He very timid, very docile, seemed like. He didn't. I don't think. I mean, obviously, being in velvet, he wasn't sparring or fighting with any of these other deer.
Right.
He just seemed to do his own thing, and and I've seen it a lot of times before with bigger deer, man. They'll hang with a younger buck, and they almost use the younger buck as a scout. You always see that younger deer come out first. They come out in the field first. And if even bachelor groups early in the summer when they're still patternable, it seems like that biggest deer is going to be the last deer to hit the field. He just waits, man. He lets those other deer get out there, get comfortable, make sure they don't get alarmed by anything. They're kind of the lookouts, and then he kind of makes his way out. And that's kind of what he was doing with this younger buck.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll, I started hunting him on the 100-acre piece. He seemed to be hanging out in this pick bean field. It was picked now. There's a little swell down in it. And all these deer that kind of filter out of this woods and they come out into the bean field to eat at night. Mm-hmm. And this is where he'd summered. This is the field he was eating in the most. I start hunting him over there. It's the 29th of October. It's 84 degrees with a 20 mile an hour sustainable southwest wind. It's a good wind to hunt it, but the temperatures, everything, I'm really on the fence about even hunting. I'm very careful about my scent control. I'm a scent armor guy. Mm-hmm. Mike Schaefer over there, man, makes great products. I showered down, everything's clean, comes out of the ozonator. So I know it's still going to be hard to get in there without sweating at 84 degrees, but I I get in there, I get set up, and I get in early that day. It's about 2:30. It's a little bit overcast kind of day. We had a front coming in. I thought, man, this front might get them up. The next day, the temps drop off about 30 degrees. I know it's warm today, but our Indiana gun season comes in the 17th, and I've got so many days. And I know with him daylighting, as much as he's daylighting, he's gonna get cracked.
Yeah, he's gonna get
early
whacked for sure.
Yeah. Because he's a pretty visible deer. He's not hiding up too much. So I get set up. I'm in a ladder stand that's it's probably a 20-footer facing into the bean field. These deer usually come out of the woods, come out into it. I'm just kind of sitting there. Time's going by. I see one little buck walking the tree line down from me. Just a 1.5-year-old deer. He's kind of out just cruising through. And I'm like, okay, well, at least something's on its feet. We're getting a little bit later in the evening now. Dark is about 6:30. It's about 5:30. 2 does come out. They walk out in the field. They're upwind of me, or I should say downwind of me. I'm a little nervous, man. Like, are these does going to bust me? Are they going to make a big deal about it? Are they going to, maybe smell me and walk off? But they don't raise their head. I'm sitting there and I'm kind of rethinking my hunt as far as even going out. Like, I'm like, man, this might not have been the best call to make with this heat. I'm leaving scent in here. But these does are calm, so that's good. Maybe not too much of smelling me.
Right.
And I'm like, this deer, and I'm thinking, you kind of talk in your head when you're in the stand, and you're like, man, like, maybe I should have did this or that. You're always kind of second guessing yourself.
Yeah, and I promise, it always happens when you least expect it. When it's 28 mile an hour wind and it's hot as all get out. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, right. But you got to make hay when the sun shines, and I had a chance. The wind was right. I hadn't been seeing him in the other patch. I felt like he was in this patch of woods over here. And like I said, he'd been out there all summer, so I knew he was comfortable in this field. These does are downwind to me. I'm kind of waiting on that, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, man, I hope they don't make a ruckus. And just about that time, I hear leaves just crunching quickly. I can tell the deer's running in towards me, and I look over, and he's right there to my right. I could not believe it. He's standing there right at the edge of the field. And I'm like, holy cow, here he is. It's about 6 o'clock, about half an hour before, dark, but he's kind of frantic when he comes in. He acted like something had bumped him.
Yeah.
Because he came running to the edge of the field, and he's looking around quickly. Man, I can tell he's kind of nervous. He's trying to figure out which way he wants to go.
Right.
And he stops, his shoulders out, but I've got a couple of small sapling trees covering his vitals, and I'm like, man, it's now or never. Like, his shoulders out, and I know when he hits his field, he's going to bust out into it. I don't know if he's going to run across it, but I know he's going to run out, and he's going to be either a very long shot. And that was the reason I took my crossbow that night. I mean, I'm a pretty avid bow hunter, but I wanted this deer, and I wanted to stack all the odds in my favor.
And you had how many days left for rifle? I mean, your rifle's coming up. You want to capitalize because, like you said.
Sure. I got 2 weeks before gun season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you there, dude. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, man. So I grab my dart and crossbow. I go out, and this deer, he stops 35 yards, and now he's broadside. He's covered up a little bit. And I know this is my chance, man. I got to make a shot on him, and I got to put it through his shoulders. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a tight window between these saplings and that, but I feel like I can get into the lungs. There's just enough hanging out.
Right.
I put scope on him, squeeze it off, and instantly, man, it pins his shoulders up. He hits the dirt and bulldoze. He actually damaged a little bit of his velvet on the fronts just because he was racked down, and he bulldozed out into the field about 50 yards and just piled up right there. I mean, it was over really quickly. I could not believe it. Like, I mean, I was on cloud 9. I almost wanted to cry. Like,
totally, dude. I mean,
used to get super emotional, but this deer, he had ran out and crashed out right there. And I just took a second in the stand. I could not believe that this deer was laying 60 yards from me.
And you made it happen. My gosh, dude, that is so
Yeah.
crazy. And I can
Yeah.
only
It was
imagine.
so quick. You know, that when it came in, I mean, the highs and the lows of it, like, I mean, you just got to stick with it.
Yeah.
When you're hunting a big deer, man, to me, it all comes down to the time in the stand. You got to hunt smart. You know, you don't want to bump them out, but you got to be there to kill them. I felt like the most grateful hunter in the world. Like, and I felt lucky because I know the odds of when you kind of dedicate a season to just one single deer that's you want. Like, I mean, your odds are always kind of low.
Right.
But to be able to make it happen and it come together, it was just the best feeling in the world. I couldn't believe it.
I mean, this is a world class.
And this is the biggest deer.
I mean,
And,
yeah,
you know, I've seen some big deer, but this is the biggest deer I've ever seen.
Right.
You know, I called my buddy and said, man, I got him. And he's like, no way. He's like, dude, I'll be right there. He drove out, like we were hugging, just high-fiving. I get on the phone. I call my buddies in Ohio, my good buddy Joe Irvin, Kyle Miller over there. Joe owns Rogue Bowstrings. And they're about 5 hours from me. I said, man, I got him. They said, we'll be in the truck and on the way in 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
We got to come over and see this, man.
Ain't that such a good feeling? And all listeners, y'all know. I mean, when you got friends and good family and stuff that supports you, that's what makes it. That's what makes your whole. That's what it's all about, man.
Yeah, totally. You know, these guys jumped in just to come out, help me take pics, make sure everything went smooth, give me good advice about it. And you know, I get home with them, and within, I'm going to say 30 minutes, man, 30 people were there to congratulate me, high five me. Just check it out. Like, I mean, this is the biggest deer we ever killed up here, man. And, you know, everybody want to get a look at it. And, you know, just to be in full velvet still was just so rare. I mean.
And just kind of clear everything up too. So Seth he took it to Toby, ended up got an official score, BTR scored. It's 284 on the dot, right? No more.
Just on the dot, man.
284.
Yeah, I got him over to Toby. Awesome guy, really knows the stuff inside and outside about deer. You know, he's telling me, you know, he's like, yeah, you know, I've measured probably 3,000 deer for Buckmaster.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I think he was up to, gosh, like 43, 44 deer over 200 inches. He said he's measured. And I mean, just some of the biggest deer in Ohio. Like he's measured some monsters.
He's the dude. He's one of our best scorers for sure. And just so to clear up too, so this just for y'all audience listening, number 4 all time of all weapons ever in the world. Canada, United States, everything, and then also you are now the number 1 crossbow record. That's pretty awesome, man. I mean, you can't beat that. Number 1.
It really hasn't even sank in yet. You know, my buddies and stuff are like, "Oh, world record holder now.
Yeah,
you're famous. We're gonna have to pay for your." I'm like, man, I'm still the same guy. I'm pretty low key. You know, before I talked to you, some other big name companies that got a hold of me and want to do a podcast, and you know, I'm kind of a quiet. I keep to myself, and I was like, I don't know, you know, and you know, you helping me out this week and everything. I was like, man, I got to hook Cody up with this.
Well, Seth, we really, dude, I can't thank you enough for doing that, and thanking the Buckmasters and all the other ones. You know, they're all great. They all doing the same thing. We're trying to get good deer stories out, and they do a dang good job doing it. And it's part of it. It's part of the outdoor industry.
Sure.
We should all work together, be one, and share these awesome stories. And this deer, just, I mean, it deserves a story, dude. I mean, you can't not tell that. So, what kind of mount? Those are some heck going behind you. But these are a couple of other ones. You gonna shoulder mount him like that? Or you gonna pedestal mount?
Well, he's gonna be a half body mount. He's gonna be standing, full front feet, half body, coming around a tree, kind of like when I saw him when I shot him. That's what sticks out in my mind, and that's kind of how I did it. A good friend of mine's daughter is a phenomenal taxidermist, Miss Molly Rogers over at Red Brush Taxidermy. She's done these deer for me. She does a great job. And just a phenomenal young lady, man.
Well, good.
She's family. Her dad's family to me. But yeah, he's my fourth booner. You know, I've been lucky enough to have some really good friends that control and own some big tracts of land that just let me hunt it. And I've been spoiled, kind of, so to speak, having some really good farms in myself for a lot of years. So I got to really thank them for it and letting me hunt. And I'm really grateful to them for that. And always letting me hunt and kind of manage their ground. And it's really hard to come by. You know how it is these days. Hunting spots are getting a little tighter and a little tighter. Yes. And, you know, spots get bought up, spots get leased out. And, you know, I mean, hunting's an industry now. Like, it
is. Totally.
Yeah.
Well, man, Seth, I can't thank you enough, dude. I can definitely, I 100% say you won't top this, man. I don't know how you could. I really don't.
You know what?
I hope you do.
Yeah. When I was 15, we were still a 2-buck state up in here in Indiana.
Yeah.
And I killed my first big buck when I was 15. I killed it with a bow. It was a 156 10-pointer, and it was big news. Like, you know, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, we didn't have the amount of big deer we have now. And I remember a bunch of people telling me, "That's the biggest deer you'll ever kill. That is a monster. Like, you'll never kill bigger than that."
Yeah.
Well, I can honestly say, I don't think I'll ever kill bigger than this.
Well, I hope you do, buddy. I really do. I hope you. I don't know how. I really don't. I don't know how it's even physically.
Yeah, I don't
possible.
know.
But
yeah, and that's what everybody's like. Well, where do you go from here? Or like,
elk,
and I just say
moose. I don't know.
You just keep hunting big deer.
Yeah,
big deer is still a big deer. You can't let one big deer. I mean, you can't think every year you're going to kill bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, to me, a 50, 60, 70 deer, that's still a big deer, man. I'm still going to hunt them. I'm still going to put the timing on them and be just as happy to take it. You know, I mean.
Awesome, man. We cannot thank you enough, Seth. Really, really, really appreciate it. We got to see some follow-up of this. If you hear any more stories about it, anybody have history, I want to see that mount as soon as you get it, please. Video, pictures, and all.
Definitely.
And can't thank you enough, Seth. We really, really appreciate you. Anything else you want to leave the audience with?
No. You know, I mean, you know, good luck to everybody this season. I hope everybody gets their trophy and the deer they're after. I don't care if it's 110 inches or 210 inches, man. Like, if you're happy, hunt it.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, man, we appreciate it. Guys, that concludes it. The biggest deer we'll probably ever cover on this podcast, if I had to say so. We appreciate y'all for watching. Tune into the next. It won't be as big, but it'll probably be a dang good story. So appreciate it.